I will speak on the amendment since we're at committee stage on the amendment, and I do want to support this amendment on behalf of Labour. Indeed, it relates to an issue I raised at second stage, Minister, in the debate on the bill, which was the need to ensure adequate integration of renters into the proposed framework in the bill. Clearly, the rebate for householders will be welcome, there's no doubt about that, but we have criticised it as being inadequate, as being merely a drop in the ocean when we see the soaring cost of living crisis that so many households are facing. And at second stage, I did speak specifically about renters. In Dublin Bay South, we know that as many as 44% of all properties are private rentals. We saw today figures from daft.ie saying that there is a chronic and historic shortage of supply of rental accommodation in Dublin, with just 712 homes available to rent at an average rent in Dublin of €2,000 per month. So we know that the cost of rental is exorbitant. And we know also, therefore, that in any bill such as this, seeking to address issues with the cost of living, that there has to be adequate regard for renters. And I think that's why this amendment is so crucial, because it does seek to put in place better protections for renters, specifically to ensure that the Minister will make provision to ensure that renters receive the benefit of the rebate. And indeed, as I pointed out at second stage, I think we would all hope that landlords would ensure that any saving on bills would be passed on to renters. But in the absence of any safeguarding measure in the bill, this could not be guaranteed. And that's why this is so important, that we would see a guarantee such as this inserted into the bill. So I would urge you, Minister, to accept this amendment. And I think, I think there will be a fairly united front from the opposition in support of it. I should say that I'm dismayed to learn just now that 10 out of the 11 amendments are ruled out of order, as I understand it, as Deputy O'Rourke has said. And indeed, I had also sought to put in amendments myself on foot of the speech I'd made at second stage, only to be told that the deadline for accepting of amendments was before the start of the second stage debate. Now, I'm new to the Dáil, but this struck me as a really poor procedural flaw, that we couldn't have a second stage debate therefore in any meaningful way since the deadline had already passed for putting in amendments. And that's the only reason why I don't have my own amendment in on safeguarding. Indeed, we had drafted one and had put it in on safeguarding renters, but were disallowed by the Bills Office. So I know, Minister, that's not your call necessarily, but it's just a real flaw in the procedure. And then we see exacerbating that out of the 11 amendments that somebody did manage to put in, that Deputy O'Rourke managed to put in, 10 have been ruled out of order. And this is the only amendment, therefore, that we're going to have a chance to debate on the floor of the House. And that's really unfortunate, I think. But it is an important amendment to support. And I'm glad to do so on behalf of Labour, because I think it will provide more robust safeguards for renters. And I think that's hugely important, particularly in the context of reports today about the crucial shortage of rental, and indeed about this 10% increase in rental year on year that we're seeing in the cost of rent across the country. So this is not just a Dublin issue either, and I would emphasise that. This is about the cost of rental right across the country, about the lack of protections for renters more generally, and this amendment does seek to address that in the context of a bill that is about addressing the really extortionate rise in the cost of living.